start our day with our opening principal sponsor session. Please join me in welcoming back to the stage from FIS, Felicity Blake.
Morena, welcome to the fireside chat between FIS's own Matt Collicoat and Rob Tesoriero on generative AI, revolutionising financial services and everyday life. Matt and Rob are going to be setting the scene and then walking you through some crystal ball gazing in terms of how generative AI is set to transform both financial services and our daily lives in the not too distant future. From personalised financial management to automated business insights, the potentials of the applications are vast. Imagine a personalised AI-driven CFO offering expert advice on cash flow, tax optimisation and financial strategy, all tailored to your business needs. And boy, have we got the right people up here to talk to you about this today. Matt and Rob? Who's coming up first? Okay. Entering the stage now is Matt Collicoat, Vice President of Banking Solutions for APAC and EMEA. Matt is a self-confessed payments geek with more than 32 years' experience in payments and fintech. Focus areas include cards, money movement, embedded finance, and B2B. Matt's experience spans projects and project management, line of business ownership, marketing, strategy, business development, and commercialisation. He's run large modernisation initiatives covering consolidation of cards programs in the US, Australia, Asia and Europe. And Rob is our payments consultant and has over 30 years experience in payments and fintech, including card issuing, acquiring and account-to-account payments. Rob's experience is anchored around his background in consulting, and he traverses go-to-market and business strategy, product management, solution consulting, business development and project and program management. Now, to bring this session to life in the most fun and exciting way possible, I'd like to introduce Gareth Parry, who will be our corporate cartoonist this morning, capturing the main points from this discussion. Gareth is a partner at PwC, leading their Wellington Experience Consulting practice and also their National Sandbox practice. His focus area is on designing better human experiences for New Zealanders, where digital, technology and people interact. Over to you, Matt, Rob and Gareth.
Thank you, Felicity. Kia ora. And it's wonderful to be here in Auckland. I always enjoy my time here. I'd just like to start by thanking Payments New Zealand. I guess we're extremely grateful to have this opportunity to participate in this fireside chat about generative AI and how it applies to financial services. I guess fireside chat, I was thinking maybe we should have been up here in slippers and dressing gowns with a glass of whiskey, but I'm sure we'll get by. It's probably a bit early for that. Over to you, Matt.
Yeah, hi, kia ora, Matt Collicoat. As Fiona said, Rob and I have both been in payments for, I like to say since last century, but it's been a long time. What I will say is that we're not experts in AI, and the reason I say that is that no one is an expert in AI. To be an expert, you need 10,000 hours is a general kind of rule of thumb. So if you did it 8 hours a day for 250 business days a year, you would need to be doing it for 5 years to become an expert. So I guess when we talk about AI, you can get the same kind of responses that when someone says, oh, computers have been around since abacuses and Stonehenge. Sure. AI, in theory, artificial intelligence has been around for a while, but the artificial intelligence we're talking about here is quite different from a bot that maybe just answers a question. We're really thinking about AI as something that after you build it and build the rules and install it, it actually grows, it actually gets smarter, it actually generates like reality. So when we're talking about AI, we're not just talking about bots, and like we spoke earlier in the session yesterday that, you know, last time we had this conference, you know, ChatGPT wasn't even a thing. So we have some thoughts, we have some ideas You may not agree with them, that's fine. Find us afterwards and buy us a beer and tell us why you think we're wrong or why you think we're right. But we're just going to have a bit of a chat up here. So one, I guess, of the examples of the difference, I think, between a bot and what we're thinking of as an AI is we're seeing it used today in fraud case management. So if you think of pretty much every card transaction, there's a few that are definitely not fraud. I'm paying my Netflix with the same card on the same date each month, and I'm paying my account. Very unlikely to be fraud. Then there's stuff that is obviously fraud, card present transaction in Singapore, and 45 seconds later, card present transaction in Auckland. That's a problem. But virtually everything else in between for fraud is grey area. It might be you doing something unusual. It might be a fraudster doing something very much like you're doing. So we do a lot of case management. And the bot of the case management is, hey, I'm going to call Rob and say, did you really do this transaction? Because we've just declined it, and if it was you, we can sort that out. Or did you really do this transaction because we've just approved it and we're not 100% sure it was you? The bot can do that, send the text, get the answer. The AI starts to learn which ones are fraud and which ones aren't fraud. And where we've been seeing it being used, we're losing or we're reducing false positives and false negatives by 20 to 30% just because one fraud bot is seeing all of the cases instead of 200 people in a contact centre, just seeing 1/200th of the cases that are going on. So, I mean, Rob, you've seen a bunch of AI in payments yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. And I guess, to your point, there's a lot of chatbots out there, and people kind of look at that as AI, and that's been useful in either responding to very specific questions, targeted information for customers, so actually tailoring the conversation specific to particular customers. Obviously there's a lot of automation, AI being used in automation, things like payment repairs, etc. And credit scoring, we're starting to see information being brought in to assist in credit scoring, and data-driven decisions. I mean, all of these kinds of things, though, are sort of your more traditional use of sort of closed ecosystem access to data. And I think what's really changing in AI these days is the accessibility of the generative AI. Before a couple of years ago, I mean, getting access to this technology was pretty difficult. Now it's quite open and everyone can access it. And I think that it introduces opportunities, but obviously it also introduces threats, and we'll talk through a few of those opportunities and threats. So in terms of the future, where do we see AI going? I guess there's a couple of fairly clear examples, and one of them is, from a personal perspective, the concept of a financial executive assistant, or the AIEA, as I like to call them. I use the scenario of I'm going on a holiday, and yes, I could be scanning the airline websites looking at the prices over time, but I could actually now use AI to actually do that on my behalf. And in fact, I could go from being consulted to actually allowing AI to take actions on my behalf. So if it actually discovers a price that seems to be the lowest it's been in the last 2 or 3 months, I want you to purchase the tickets. And I've given the instruction, I've given AI the brief, and it's actually taken care of that for me. Same for hotel bookings, etc. So AI can actually be used to actually assist in a lot of the things that an executive assistant effectively would be doing today. And then, of course, you've got, we had Dom yesterday from Up, and he something stuck in my mind about something he said, and he talked about solving customer problems that customers don't even know they have yet. And I just thought, wow, that's where AI really comes into its own as well. So the idea of AI being able to pick up the fact that, hey, you might have a cash flow problem because we know your energy bill's coming in a few days' time, and your account's pretty low, and it's another 5 days before your pay packet hits your account. It can start to help out, and of course then you start to move into the more small business, and and how AI can assist in that respect as well, and the concept of like a virtual CFO helping out with cash flow and reconciliation and a lot of those kind of menial tasks that can now actually be automated because AI has access to all of this information. Yesterday we had another example. We had Carol talking about sort of payments 2.0, payments 3.0, and the potential use of AI to actually start to provide not only the advice but maybe actually direct which payment type is appropriate for what type of purchase. And so I think we're going to start to see AI more and more embedded in our day-to-day payments as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think Carol is talking about payments 3.0 as being, the bank is connected to a single place and then the bank can decide, I'm going to send it here or I'm going to send it there. I think this is going to get us to payments 4.0, for want of a better term, where actually the customer actually can say, well, I want to pay with this card versus that card, or I want to pay with PayPal, or I want to pay with maybe cash, and it'll tell you what to pay with because you know what? Today, there's a special offer on this where you get double loyalty points and you didn't know about it, or you're only this far away from getting whatever it is. So, there might be 5 different ways of you being able to pay for the same price in the same speed. And as far as the bank's concerned, they'll pick the one that's best for them out of those 5 ways. But if you as a customer are saying, well, this one's better for me rather than that one, letting that AI kind of help you make that decision, I think is going to be quite interesting. Mm-hmm. And you spoke about, the AI buying the airline tickets for you. And I think that's where we start to, I think absolutely that's where it's going to go. I think that's though where it starts to become quite tricky and interesting for financial institutions, because think about where driverless cars are now suddenly, if there's an accident, is the car manufacturer on the hook? Well, if an AI buys something on your behalf, yeah, it might have been the cheapest airline ticket, but it might have been $1,400 and you only had $1,000 to spend on your plane flights, and it probably should have said you need to go to New Zealand instead of going to Tahiti, right? So I think maybe we're going to get into the position where the ability to either have those stopgap points where just before you purchase it, like the AI does all the legwork for you and says, do you want to buy this? And you have to say yes, because otherwise you're going to get to the point where the bank's going to say, you owe us money for this, and you'll say, I didn't want to buy it. All right, so it gets a little tricky there as far as that's concerned. And maybe it's gates where you give approvals, and if that becomes too much friction, maybe we need a better way of changing our mind. I mean, we have chargebacks, etc. I mean, it's kind of how PayPal came out, right? It was like, give me the money, but if I don't get what I want, I've got the ability to get the money back. So maybe if with AI purchases, we need some kind of additional way of saying, I agreed to this as a human being. So that I think will be quite interesting. I think it's going to come down to what, I think Manish mentioned it first yesterday, but certainly in the CEO and Carol spoke about it as well, trust. Trust is going to be important. Right, let's say I have an EA, there's my AI EA that's doing stuff for me. Whose AI is it? Is it the bank's AI? Is the bank recommending that I get this credit card or I use this product? And if they are, is it actually the best one for me? I need to trust that AI, right? So that means maybe I have to actually go out and subscribe to my own AI to know that it's working for me. Not everybody's going to be able to afford to do that, and we talked about inclusion a lot yesterday as well. So I suspect a lot of companies are going to have these AIs that are available for you to use. Do you trust that it's giving you the best information for you and behaving the best way for you, or is it behaving the best way for the company that bought and paid for the AI and is putting it in your hands? So I think that trust is really going to become quite an interesting approach. Trust that it's doing the right thing on your behalf. And I think if you're going to win in this business, and if you are going to get the customer to use your AI, you have to realise that sometimes you might be recommending something else, or it might be doing something that's not necessarily what you want. And unless you will let it do that, you're going to very quickly lose trust with those customers.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you talk about sort of, whose AI are they going to use? And I think this is where you're going to find, millennials and Gen Z, they're probably going to gravitate towards your fintechs, whereas some of your sort of more your Gen Xers and your baby boomers, they might feel a lot more comfortable. They've got a lot of trust at the moment in their banks, and so I think we're going to start to sort of see various AI kind of assistants coming out And I think it's a huge opportunity out there for everyone.
And I mean, if you're not doing the right thing as far as your AI is concerned, you can bet your bottom dollar that someone on the internet spots it and reports that fact as well, right? So, and there's going to be companies out there saying, what's the best AI? What's the top 10, financial assistant AIs you can get? And you're going to need to be kind of up to date with that. I think as well, it's, a digital identity. We heard a lot about a digital ID yesterday. And I know that there's a lot of remote digital ID sort of processes that came out during COVID. I can video hold up my driver's license and it videos my face and compares it to the driver's license. Well, that's great, but with AIs now we've got deep fakes. So an AI can very easily fake that, which means there's going to be a bit of an arms race, I think, with digital IDs, with the AIs helping us to make sure it really is the right digital ID, and then AIs, working on the fraudster's behalf to if you can hack a human as easily we heard yesterday, it might be harder to hack an AI and give it the right responses, but once you do it, it's going to work across a whole lot of people. So I think there's going to be a bit of a fraud arms race there with AI as well. And if you've got the worst AI out of all of the banks, I know we don't want to use the word weakest link for people yesterday, but if you're the weakest link in the banks, your stuff's going to get hacked more than anyone else's. So keeping up to date with that and keeping ahead of that, it's going to become really important.
Yeah, no, agreed. One of the other interesting areas of AI is going to, I guess, sort of starting to think about some of the ethical dilemmas here. And look, I know 5 or 6 years ago, I had a fairly senior executive ask me the question, Rob, are we able to bring in data, unstructured data, into our credit scoring processes? And he had in mind social media. Now, back then, it was like, interesting idea, not really feasible technically at the moment. Today, that actually is feasible. So I guess the question becomes, people publishing all of this information into social media, are they then expecting that to be used as part of their decision process as to whether or not they're going to get a home loan or not? So I think, all of these things are now possible, but we've got to start to ask the question, is this really where we should be going?
Yeah, that's scary to me. As a Gen Xer, I always say I was happy there was no social media when I was at university because, parties and you say stupid things and no one's university brain is that clever from that point of view. Even nowadays, you like something, you comment stupidly on something or whatever, and it's out there. So I think there's certain generations that'll be against that. But I also think, as we heard yesterday, Alphas and Zs really want to put their entire life on it and expect their entire life on it. And if you think about, the Gen Z thought process, they're very anti-credit as a generation. And when it comes time to buy a car or a house, how does a bank know whether they're a good credit risk? If you've only ever had a debit account, you've never touched credit in your life. So there may need to be other forms of, is Rob, partying every weekend and, doing stupid things on social media? That may become an input to, is it worth lending him money for a house? Is he going to pay back his car loan? And so there's going to need to be ways for financial institutions to find that. So as scared as that makes me feel, I feel like it probably will evolve in some way along those lines. And some people will think it's an invasion of privacy, and some people will go, that saves me time. I don't have to tell the bank what I do on the weekends and whether I'm good for a loan. They can find that out from my Instagram feed, right?
Yeah, completely. I mean, it doesn't have to be a negative, right? It can actually be a positive. Yeah. My LinkedIn profile, it sort of spells out, my trajectory of success, for example. And so, lending organisations may look at that in a very positive light. So, there are some positives there as well. I don't want it to be all negative.
No, but then back to that arms race, right? So, I've got to apply for a loan. Is there an AI that can redo my LinkedIn profile to make it more likely for me to be able to get a loan? And right, so then the AI you get to decide whether or not they're good for the payback has to be able to smart enough to detect that an AI is being used to basically fake the information. So again, I think it's just going to be this who's got the best, and you're going to need to take everything almost with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting because, AI really is a double-edged sword, right? I mean, it opens up huge opportunities and being able to sort of personalise and target things for customers out there and take products to market on a mass scale, but make it appear very personalised. But the flip side, of course, is that same technology can be used to completely undermine the system.
Yeah. it is, I guess, somewhat scary. And I know, and so when Rob and I started talking about what we were going to talk up here about, we've heard a number of talks on AI, and there's no, as much as it is crystal ball gazing, it is a bit crystal ball gazing, right? No one's 100% sure what it's going to be like. We think there's going to be, the issues and stuff that we spoke about, but I think really the so what of this, the so what of the fact that we don't necessarily know in 2 years' time what it's going to look like. I think the so what is, we're not experts. You need to get some experts working for you. You need to get some young people in and give them the ability to play with AI, to learn AI, to think about how AI is going to work with your banking products, how it's going to work to solve customers' problems. So I really think that the so what of the kind of discussion is very much around, if you're the last bank to do it, if you're the last organisation to be there, you're going to be the first one that gets hacked. You're going to lose market share overnight. If you're the very first one to do it, maybe you're in the paper of, Bank A is stealing my social media, information and my personal. So there's a bit of a balancing act there, but the only way to be able to prepare for that is have people in your organisation who understand AI. And I mean technical people who understand it, and also, marketing people and business people who understand it as well. So if you work for a bank, start learning that, because it's going to become a number of roles are going to be involved in it. If you're thinking about who you're going to hire, and we heard from the fantastic panel yesterday about hiring Indigenous people because they have a different point of view, which I think is amazing. I think you also have to hire people who are not just thinking about banking products, they're thinking about artificial intelligence and how that's going to apply.
Yeah, and I guess when you're sort of thinking about how we're going to tackle AI, I guess really embracing it both from the perspective of leveraging the opportunities out there, but also, and it's critical, we have to be prepared for these threats. We've already sort of seen examples of scams out there that are becoming more and more increasingly sophisticated, and AI is only going to accelerate that further. Josh used the words authorised fraud yesterday, and I think confirmation of payee and things like that are certainly going to help, but as AI starts to insert itself really into these scams, I think it's going to become more and more difficult to really determine for the average person, not only the average person, I mean, I've almost fallen for some of these things myself, but it's going to become more and more difficult to really separate out what's real versus what's actually something that's been generated by AI.
Yeah, for the CEO panel yesterday, I noticed 3 main themes coming out. One of them was we need digital ID, and one of them was trust. But that third one was very much along the lines of how we can feel safe when we're banking, and that safety was really important. And so that's our job as technology providers and banking solution providers. It's not just to come up with these things, it's to come up with them in a circumstance that is safe, that my 84-year-old mother who clicks on everything that comes past doesn't all of a sudden give an AI the ability to do things that it shouldn't do, and doesn't fall for deep fakes and all of those things. So it's being able to package that stuff up in a safe way is really going to become the trick. And if you take 5 years to do it, it's too late, it's moved on. So you have to do it fast and you have to do it safe, which is kind of a bit of a dichotomy there. But I think that's, if you can thread that needle, that's where you're really going to win.
Completely.
All right, look, thanks again so much for our time here. We don't have a lot of time left. I really appreciate being able to get up here and have a chat. As I said, you may completely agree with what we've said. You may disagree with what we've said. I'd love to talk about it. Rob and I are here for the rest of the conference. Please come and tap us on the shoulder and ask us, what were you thinking when you said this, or what do you think about this? We may or may not have seen that in our imaginary crystal balls that we're talking about here. But we are both very embedded into the payments industry. both worked across multiple countries and multiple markets. And another theme that we heard yesterday, I think, was that New Zealand can't afford to repave the way every time. They need to be in a position to say that didn't work, but that did. I'll have one of those. Thanks very much. So if you want to come and talk to us about anything we've seen that has worked or hasn't worked, either way, very happy to have those conversations as well. So thanks so much for being here. And thanks so much for having us. And thanks to Payments New Zealand. This was terrific. Oh, sorry, one more thing. I can't see this, but I'm assuming it's amazing. We will tidy it up and we will make it available to everybody as well. Thanks very much. So, thanks again.